dear mentees. This is Valeria, the head of marketing of the Odyssey project. And today we have a very special interview. It's only this August that Toastmasters of the world chose the new champion of public speaking of 2022. This year, it's a Toastmaster from Europe, from a European district number 108, originally a native Zimbabwean living and representing the country of Poland, Cyril Junior Dim. The moment I heard of him winning the Toastmasters World Championship, my first thought was, wow, amazing, unbelievable. My second thought, as a mentor and a mentee, followed immediately. There must be someone standing behind, helping Cyril Junior Dean to gain this victory. And I want to know and meet his mentor. Dear mentors, dear mentees, I'm proud and happy to present you a person who stands behind or at side of Cyril Junior Dean, Naomi Isaacs, a coach, a mentor, a TEDx speaker, life strategist, and also a founder of the Institute of Charismology. Naomi, hello.
Hello, Valeria. Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm really excited about it.
I think we're all excited. And my first question, of course, is somehow related to your mentee, to your protege. What was the story of your relationship with Cyril as mentor and mentee pair? How did you manage to form this pair?
We are both Toastmasters, and the Toastmasters Club in Prague organized an online Sunday night storytelling event. And because I'd been to Prague, I was on their list, so I got the notification. And I thought, oh, that sounds fun. I'll watch and maybe tell a story and maybe just watch. And there was this young man who told a story. It was very lively. He obviously enjoyed telling the story. And I thought, you know, he's really talented. And I wrote in the private chat to him privately, I love the story. I love the way you told it. If you wanted a tip or two about how to present it even more concise, so I don't even remember exactly what I wrote, but just simply, if you want some information, some help, get in touch with me. And I didn't hear anything for a while. And then I did hear from him, and the reason I hadn't heard for a while was because he thought I wanted to be his coach and then ask money for it. And I had no intention other than giving him a couple of tips from my experience on the stage, and because just because I liked him.
So basically, it was a spontaneous meeting. So you never expected it to be such a big deal, right?
No, I had no idea who he was or what he did. I just thought, nice young man, talented. I could give him a tip or two. That was all.
That
has actually always been my intention with my mentees. I like to choose them because I can feel who I want to work with. And of course, people do come to me as well. I can't work with everyone. I don't think anybody can. I can only work with people who are excited about the work. They don't have to be competitors, but they have to be excited about their own personal growth.
So you chose him, and then he chose you in his turn. How long was your relationship? How many months have you worked together to get prepared for this championship?
It must be about 2 years in total by now, because he went through a period where he won all the local contests, but didn't make it out through the
Semifinals.
semi-finals here in
I
Europe.
remember
He didn't make it to
2020.
America.
Yeah.
And of course, part of the job then for a mentor is picking a person up after they failed or helping them to stand up on their feet again, because I know the feeling, it's terrible. I don't know it from failing at a contest because I don't go in for contests, but I do know the feeling after a bad concert, a concert where things went really wrong. Other people don't maybe think it was so bad, but I remember this feeling of shame, of letting myself down, letting my band down, and the audience paid to go to a concert, and I delivered something that wasn't really. I remember this feeling of shame is terrible, and disappointment. So that's what I think a mentor is also there for, when somebody fails, to say, hey, life doesn't end today.
So basically, you also work as a psychotherapist to help him, as you said, to get on his feet again after the first failure.
I'm not allowed to call myself a therapist because I never studied psychology at the university, but I think anybody that works with people for 35 years becomes a psychologist.
Well, and a teacher. You are a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And I taught singing for many years. Now I still coach singers, but I don't teach them the vocal techniques. And you can't work on a person's voice without becoming a psychologist, because the voice is it's such an intimate instrument, and your voice can betray you every second. If you're nervous, everybody can hear that you're nervous, and it's awful. So one of the main jobs, I think, of a mentor is to make people realize, or help people realize, you're okay whatever you do. You don't have to be good. You don't even have to be special. You are special because you exist. But other than that, your journey is your journey. Happy to hold your hand for a while.
That's true. I also worked and I also am a mentor to some Toastmasters of my club and neighboring clubs. And there's also a new, so to say, path, a mentoring path in Toastmasters, where they teach us to be better mentors or better mentees. And the planning is, and tracking the progress is one of the biggest part of this project. So my question to you would be, how detailed was, or how elaborate was your planning part of relationship with Cyril Junior Deem, and how firmly did you stick to it? So what was the planning thing? How big it was?
I guess this is the moment where I have to own up. I'm basically a chaotic person. We made appointments to speak again, shall we, you want to speak again this week or in 2 weeks, or, each time we made an appointment for the next time. I think I did make notes while we were working, but I work on a piece of paper, which I then usually lose. And so I had to say to Cyril, how have you been getting on? What's happening? He would tell me, oh, I've been to this club and tried that speech out, and so on. He did once, I think, actually send me the text of one of the speeches. I can't quite remember. Basically, I work very spontaneously. And sometimes during the session that we have together, a question comes up that never came up before. So if we had made a plan, we would have to leave the plan anyway, because that question that comes up might be absolutely essential to the progress of the path that the mentee is on. And I know for I'll go back to the example of singing students, because I don't want to keep talking about Cyril all the time. I think he should have the opportunity to speak for himself as well. But I remember many people would come and say, I want to learn to sing. And you could hear in their voice, you could hear that they feel helpless. And it turned out, after a certain amount of conversation and delving into the reason why, the motivation, why do you want to sing? They didn't want to sing. They weren't interested in music at all. They wanted to be heard. And that's a totally different topic, a totally different challenge to the mentor, because I didn't want to discourage anyone from singing. If they wanted to sing, I wanted them to sing. But it was quite clear that they would never be able to hold a whole evening on stage with a band or go on tour with a band, because it wasn't the music that interested them. And so my job as a mentor was gently to help them discover what their real motivation in life was, and to find an outlet for that, and not to stop them singing, but to help them start doing what they really want to do. And in one case, it was somebody who said, now I've discovered basically that I want to be heard. I want to help other people to be heard. And she became a teacher for younger children. And many people realized that the reason they're not happy in their job is not because of the work or the colleagues, it's because they don't feel noticed by the company, by the boss. So they changed their jobs to find better jobs, or maybe joined a choir so they could sing. But it was my job as a mentor was to help them find their place in life according to their personal wishes and abilities and talents as well. And if somebody came and I thought, I don't know whether you'll make it as a singer, I would explain to them that the profession, you get to sing about 3% of your time, and the rest of the time is organization and all sorts of stuff. And if somebody then said, you know what, I want to sing anyway, I don't care what you say, then I would think, okay, that person has a chance. That person really has a chance. And one person that did come to me with a voice that didn't exist, like a little girly voice like that. And she was, I think, mid-40s at the time, is now a professional singer. She has 2 professions, and one of them is singing. And she sings all over the place for people's weddings and birthdays, and has a lovely stage presence. I didn't quite have that faith that she would make it, but I was wrong. And she made it.
Fantastic. Keeping this analogy, voice, music, profession, what's in your view the best analogy or metaphor, if you want, to describe a mentor-mentee relationship, taking out from, business, could be family, music, animals, something?
Wow. I think the first thing for mentor and mentee is you have to get along. You have to enjoy talking to each other, and you have to grow trust that each of you will tell the truth. I know with Cyril that he has a particular way of saying, I can do that. And whenever I heard him say, I can do that, I learned to trust that sentence, because when he said it, he could do it, and he did do it. So it's learning. I mean, the mentor has to learn so much about the mentee. Who are they? How do they talk? How truthful can they be? And to give them the space to be truthful without being judged. And I think for the mentee, I've had several mentors in my life. They were always people that I looked up to, at the same time as they were people who allowed me to talk to them at eye level. I never had the feeling they are above me, but just in that field, they know more than me, and they were ready to help me. So I think eye level is very important. Trust is very important. and that you like each other simply. It's not easy to teach or mentor or coach somebody that you don't really like. But I've learned to be able to like most people in a coaching situation, but mentoring is different. It's much more personal, and it becomes a friendship, so you have to like the person as well.
Speaking about trust that you've mentioned, you also said that it's important to learn to hear the truth, to trust, to tell the truth as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in my experience, when you tell the truth, like the truth that you feel the truth, people get offended sometimes. Sometimes it may cause conflicts. Do you have any experience of solving conflict situations, some disagreements with your mentees, or maybe with Cyril? There could be some story on that. Can you share?
Cyril and I did get in each other's hair one evening. And the reason was that we'd got into a topic which was not the topic of his speech, and it was going to take us into a very interesting conversation about politics and all kinds of stuff. But it wasn't going to help him win the competition. So we decided to leave that. And I mean, he's a very mature person, and I hope that I am too, or at least, and I remember saying to him, you know what, let's talk about that another time. This isn't going to help, because do we want to talk about that, or do you want to win a competition? So we went back to the competition, and later on, actually, due to the text of his speech, I realized that what we had been discussing, he had already resolved by himself, because it entered the speech in a way that it was clear, now he knows what he thinks about that. And that was wonderful. It's very important. I know what you mean about giving feedback and not offending people. It's sometimes very, very difficult. I learned a lot about giving feedback in America, not during a speech workshop, a speaking workshop, but during my kinesiology training. Kinesiology is a paramedical therapy. I don't know what to call it, parapsychological. It's all about muscle testing and getting to the root of a person's inner motivations. And we had an exercise where we would each have to go to the front of the group, and each person in the group had to say something nice about us. And we weren't allowed to say, oh, I like your shoes. Oh, they're terribly old. We just had to say thank you. And then there was the same exercise with give them some criticism. And the criticism has to be what I liked about what you did and what I think you could do better. Now, it's a little bit like that in Toastmasters, but there's often the tendency to say, you shouldn't walk around the stage so much. And instead of saying you shouldn't, you could say, you know what, I would enjoy it even more if you could find the place to stand where you feel good. And I know it's difficult to stay standing there, but for us, it's so much nicer to watch you standing there. It's to combine the positive and the negative, if you like to call them that, or the thing to be improved and the constructive suggestion.
Encouraging, yeah.
And I began to, in my workshops, to forbid people to say, you should do da, da, da. The words you should were forbidden. And it was always what I trust that you can do even better is, or what I would enjoy more. Because when we go on stage to speak, it's not about us, it's about the audience. It's about what we can give them. And if somebody in the audience says, I would enjoy it even more if, that gives me the motivation to want to go forward and change it. But giving feedback is, it's not always easy. And there have been situations where, for example, I've had to say to somebody, I really admire that you managed to finish your speech, although I could see that you were extremely nervous. Well done. And sometimes that's the most important thing. It may not even be, that might not even be the moment for suggestion about what they could do better, but just congratulate them for having done something at all. For some people, it's so difficult.
Yeah, having courage and demonstrating it. It's a vital thing for newcomers in Toastmasters, that's true. So you seem to be a great personal evaluator in Toastmasters Club. Please come and join our sessions in Moscow. We would love to have you as an evaluator, based on what I heard. I have another topic, a question, say, ask. You mentioned that you should come along, trust, and find the best in people, their goals and everything to get to them, and help as a mentor. So as you have basically helped the world champion of public speaking won the contest of the global level, are there any specific characteristics, I mean, like key features in the character of a person, something that would help him to have this guts, to have this courage to climb this ladder, something specific? So you can talk to a person and you see he lacks something or he has it. What is this to become the world champion?
That's a very difficult question to answer, and I know exactly what you mean. The first thing that a person has to have is ambition. If they're not ambitious, no mentor will be able to make them ambitious, or if the mentor tries to make them ambitious, they may very well burn them out. And I found in my own experience for myself, if I try to set a goal which I have to achieve, I not only lose concentration, I go into panic mode, because this is not my personality structure. I am a supporter. And a competitor has to have ambition. Now, there's a word in German for ambition. If you translate it, Ehrgeiz, if you translate it literally, it means greed for honor, greedy for honor. And I think it's a very good word, because that's exactly what it is. It's really, I want the honor, I want the honor. So I think you have to have this initial motivation inside you, this greed for honor, but on the path towards gaining the honor, it's essential to realize that if you only do it for yourself, you might get a trophy, you might win something wonderful, lots of money even, but that's not going to be satisfying in the long run, because it does not make you friends, it does not reach your connection to people. I mean, this honor doesn't help you connect with people unless you learn to connect with people, which is a different thing for ambition. And that was one of the most important elements, and I believe that Cyril would, actually, he's already said it. If you watch his showcase interview after the contest, he actually says, as soon as I realized that it wasn't about winning, but it was about giving something to the people. And that was the moment when he switched and became not only authentic, but even more powerful. He was always powerful, but there was a lot of, I've got to win. Yeah. So the specific thing is the person has to have this ambition. I believe that this is a difficult one again. Many people have a talent, but you can't see the talent because it's covered up by too much ambition, too much trying hard. So as a mentor, it's very important to try and dig out, to excavate, to find where the real talent is. And I know it's there, but not everybody is prepared to live that talent. So what the competitor has to bring with them is the talent, the Bereitschaft. Now I'm losing my English from living so long in Germany. They have to be ready and willing to show themselves, to be sort of a bit naked to the audience, and they have to be willing to learn. And there are certain things you cannot give a person. If somebody wants to give me the ability to win, I have won certain competitions. It never satisfied me. I never felt good. I feel good when my mentees are successful. That's what gives me, that for me is like Christmas, you know, yay.
You basically answered my next question. What's in it for you as a mentor?
Exactly
So
that.
basically, I see what's in it for you. Genau, as German people say, whatever. Can here's a question which is more practical, I think, but I am personally interested to know the answer, and I guess our Odyssey participants are also eager to know what's
I'll ask
mentoring.
any question you like to ask.
Yeah, can you describe the typical mentoring session, say with Cyril, for instance? So how long is this? What are the parts of the session? Does he rehearse and you give feedback, or you just talk like friends? So what is this about?
This is part one. Hi, how are you? What's going on? How are you? How's the weather? Have you eaten? What's going on in the general stuff? Just like friends over coffee. Part two is, oh, how's the speech coming on? Because our mentoring was all about the speech, the progression of the speeches. Then Cyril would read the speech or go through it and sometimes stand up and present it. And I would sit there with a piece of paper, and I probably look terrible because when I concentrate, I look angry. And I sort of, and I would write down everything. And then I would go from the top through it with him. And I could see him sometimes writing notes. And so he has a special, everybody has a special look on their face when they're concentrating and digesting what you say. I got to recognize that face. I got to recognize that face. Just go through the speech. By the way, at the beginning you say, I think I'll give you this example. I'm sure he won't mind. In his winning speech at the beginning, he says, we speak Shona. We have a very lovely word that I would like to teach you. And I remember stopping him there and saying, dear Cyril, I don't want to learn from you. I want to sit back and enjoy. But if you share it with me, then I'll feel different. So just the little things I went through with details. And then there was one moment in the speech, Bogdan, the semi-final speech. I said, yeah, oh, I didn't realize you're back in the car again. Okay, I need one sentence where you bring me back to the car. I can't follow you at that moment. So all my work was about finding moments which didn't work for me as an audience and him working them in. And there were moments when I said to him, Cyril, you're 24 and I'm going to be 80. And if you stand up on that stage and ask me a question like, are you living your life? Or I am going to, it's going to turn me off. I don't need you to tell me how to live my life. So whatever you do, please don't preach to me. Share with me, ask me, tell me. And this he actually built into, yes, the winning speech. Instead of saying, no, it was Bogdan. It wasn't the Bogdan speech. Instead of saying, I am going to tell my children, da, 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 he said, if my children mess up, or my girlfriend, they won't hear it from me. And we're all human. I thought, how wonderful that he's got it. He's digested it. And the process is, we work till we can't do anymore, which was usually about somewhere around 2 hours, like 90 minutes to 2 hours. It's very intense work. And some of it was just was not the speech itself. Some of it was, okay, so you mention your mother. Now, how does your mother talk to you? And I said, well, show me. I want to hear your mother. So I need you to be an actor and to imitate her. And then later on, he said in his interview that he learned to inhabit the words and the situations physically, vocally. And so a lot of it was stage experience work, not just on the speech, but always using the speech as the example. And then at the end, we'd say, great, lovely to see you again. Have a great week. And mostly one of us was hungry because it was always in the evening and I eat very late. So I would go and make dinner, and we would just make a date for the next time. It was usually a week to 10 days between sessions. And occasionally it was a bit spontaneous, because I would write and say, how are you getting on? Do you want another session? Or he would say, oh, can you do Saturday? He never got like that. And he never got hysterical like that. But it always arrived very suddenly in my inbox. It was always on Zoom. We have never met personally, as physically, you know. So
that's cool. Wonderful that you shared. I mean, I like the techniques that you use, like, guiding, giving some. It's sometimes when the teacher gives a sentence to finish to a kid, and he then invents something and start the thinking, critical, analytical, and it's great. It's like it's like a slight pushing in the right direction. So when person is not told what he should do, but he understands it from his inner self, and that's wonderful. How difficult it is to become your mentee, Naomi? How many mentees do you have right now?
Right now, in my club, I have 3, which is really interesting because, and this is one thing that I'm always a bit careful of. As a singing teacher, working with people who actually go on stage and sing, it was professionally not a good idea to say, oh, I am her teacher. She can say, Naomi is my teacher, but I can't say, Janet, Susie, whoever, is my pupil, because they go on stage as their own authority, as themselves. So I've always been a little careful. Within the club, I'm not sure that these 3 people know that I am mentoring the other one as well. In the officer team, they know who my mentees are, and they're not in the officer team. But I try to keep that a little private, yeah. think it's important. And at the moment, I have a lot of people that come to me for sort of one session. I also do a session which is sort of a whole morning or a whole afternoon, and then they go away. Yeah, it's that's how I work. I like to work in depth, because just telling people, oh, you could do this a bit better or that a bit better, that bores me. I need to go in depth.
Yeah, sometimes
And there are
it's a bit
plenty of
shallow.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are plenty of people who will stay on the surface and do that work. So, you know, I'll send people to somebody, if one of my colleagues, but then I maybe don't see them for 3 or 4 months. My personal way of working now is, if you want to come back, I'm really happy to see you, but you have to get in touch with me, because I'm not, you know, I'm old. I enjoy just sitting in the sun and reading a book. I don't have to be doing this work all the time, but if somebody brings the energy, you know, this is their life, it's not my life. And if they are excited about the progress that they can make, then I'll work all day and all night with them. But it's not my job to push them to want to live better. And this is possibly not part of the content that you're interested in this interview, so you can edit this out, which is why I made a space for you to do that. My personal concern and interest at the moment is encouraging people to notice that to be a leader, I mean, Toastmasters says where leaders are made. You can't be a leader if you don't have followers and supporters. Are all the supporters going to be leaders who didn't make it? Or are they going to be supporters who enjoy being supporters? Or are they going to be people with no particular ambition? I mean, I have ambitions, but they're not goals. My ambition is to go with the flow and find the things that I can really do to contribute them. And then as far as I'm concerned, I can go on to the next thing. I mean, let's say I've learned to really like Cyril over these 2 years. I would be desperately sad if we never had any contact anymore. But if he said to me, you know what, it's been a wonderful 2 years, thank you so much. Here's a postcard to say thank you. I am now going on to this other trainer or whatever. Hey, you know, what a gift to me to have been part of that journey. So there may be people in your team who have no ambition. They're just completely happy to, you know, make the photocopies and make the coffee and do the stuff that needs doing, where they will never have their name on any program. Similar to the Sergeant at Arms in Toastmasters. They're always there an hour early, or whatever, how much time. If they're lucky, the club members will help them clear up, but they don't have stage time. The Sergeant at Arms does not get stage time. But without the Sergeant at Arms, okay, one time everybody will say, oh God, she's not there, he's not there, get the room ready. But that's the job. And every time I go shopping, I think, would I be able to buy bread if the guy who drives the truck to bring the bread to the supermarket had an accident or didn't feel like going to work today or whatever? We depend so much on these nameless people, the people who never get stage time, the people who you never read about in the newspaper, the people whose name is never printed anywhere and you don't know their name. And at the moment, my personal focus is on getting people to realize that they should appreciate these people also openly. Well, like when you go shopping, to have an extra word with the person on the cash desk, or if somebody is you know, loading the shelves and they drop something, to pick it up for them and say hello and notice the invisible people. So this is a little bit where my focus is at the moment. And that also entered my work with Cyril as well. It was
wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I mean, it's a new perspective. It's a new angle on how to look at, mentor, mentee relationship and the process. Oh, I think it would be my last question, not the most difficult one, but to sum it up and finalize. I was about to ask you what's in it for you, but you already responded to this. I would ask something different. We're looking for mentors in the Odyssey project. We have lots of mentees, people who want to be mentored, but lots of people are afraid or sometimes unwilling to make this first step to become a mentor. So he's a mentee, and now it's time to step up a little, but they're still reluctant to do this. Something stops them. What's your advice? Say maybe in a short phrase, what's in it for us as new mentors? Why do this?
I'm going to quote my singing teacher. When a girl came to me and said, would you be my singing teacher? And I went to my teacher, I said, oh, somebody wants me to teach them. Oh my God, I don't. And she said, you will learn more by teaching than by taking lessons. And as a mentor, you will learn more about leadership, you will learn more about speaking, you'll learn more about you will learn more and more and more by being a mentor, because people will ask you questions and you have to be prepared to say, I don't know, or I've never thought about that. So you have to learn to be absolutely open and honest. And at the same time, you will notice, oh, wait a minute, I do know, but I've never thought about putting it into words. And every time you formulate something in words for the first time, it's at the same time you're teaching yourself. And you've learned a new piece of vocabulary for your teaching work, your coaching work. Because being a mentor and being a coach, they're not the same, but it's very difficult to be a mentor without being a coach some of the time. And the same for coaching, that you will learn more by being a mentor than by being a mentee.
We certainly will. One last phrase for our Odyssey sailors to finish it up from you.
Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm delighted to share everything I know. I already said I'm old. I will be 80 in January, and I'm getting to the place in my life where it's very important for me to share everything I know so that it goes out into the world. And if somebody else picks it up and carries it on, then I'll be happy. If there's any more that I can contribute to the Odyssey project, I feel free to call me anytime, and we can set some stuff up. We can even set up a Q&A session if you like, whatever. I'm just happy to share whatever I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Naomi Susan Isaac, the trainer, the coach, the life strategist, the jazz singer, oh my God, and the best teacher of the world champion of public speaking in Toastmasters. Thank you.